We hear a lot of talk lately about emotional intelligence and masculinity and driving men. I wanted to take this opportunity and actually share something really personal for me and to me. I've been very lucky in my life, and I've born in South Africa. I've competed in multiple sports, won lots of championships. I've been successful in academics, in my sport, in life in general. I've been very lucky, and I've had good achievements. But being a dad was probably the proudest moment I ever had, was becoming a father, but then also setting the example for my kids. And little did I realize at the time that I was going to learn as much from them as they probably learned from me. And I've always been somebody to want to look at self improvement and self assess and take control of my life. I've been lucky in that sense. It's a drive I've always had, and I thought this would be a great opportunity to share my Father's Day card that I got from my kids this year. And it came at an opportune time when I was second guessing the value that I was bringing to my work and my life in general. And the card is quite funny itself. I, Leila and Kai, nominate our dad, Pedro Relvas, for 2025's Best Dad Award. Reasons: being cool, outrageous swagger, brains of the operation, fashion icon, I like that one, being my super fan, other, walking encyclopedia, jokester, comedian, and best coach. I'm really glad that they left out the lame jokes and cringe masters, because that makes me feel good about myself. So I'll just share with you what my daughter said firstly. Dad, I could write for hours about how insanely grateful I am for you, but I'll try to keep it short and sweet. A lot of the time in society, I feel like I'm too much, or sometimes too complicated. You have made me realize that I might be, but just call people out for their shit, and they don't like that. I feel, yeah, I'm very similar in this way to you. You told me that these qualities are qualities that not many people my age have, and that I am who I am today because of that, and mostly because of you. You constantly make me a better woman, and in a world where people don't want to turn out like their fathers, I'll be glad if I turn out even half the person you are. I'm insanely proud of you and what you do. You inspire so many people, and I feel you can truly say you found your purpose. I also believe one of them was being my dad. I love you always, Layla. So I always get a little bit emotional when I read this. And then my son's card was, Dad, I can't tell you how lucky I am to be able to call you my father, role model, and best friend. Being able to see you grow and become such a beautiful soul pushes me to put the effort in to do the same. And I'm so grateful to have you guide me through every step of the way. You make me and countless others better human beings. You make more of a difference in people than you know. I always feel proud to call you my dad. And when anyone compliments me in pretty much any way, and in brackets, except looks, that's all me, close brackets, I'll always say that I owe it to you. Leah put it well when she said, I'll feel lucky to be even half the man you are. I love you. So this to me, by far, one of the greatest achievements was to receive a card like this. When you are growing up with your kids and you're trying to teach them things and lead them the way, the world wants to protect them. They want to comfort them. And we all talk about emotional intelligence. Let's define emotional intelligence, what it is. Emotional intelligence, or EQ, is the ability to understand, manage, and use your own emotions, as well as to recognize, understand, and influence the emotions of others. It involves skills like self awareness, self management, social awareness, and relationship management. And it can be developed to improve communications, build relationships, reduce stress, navigate difficult situations, etc. So there needs to be an understanding of our emotions. The problem is we don't really focus on our emotions. We are not our emotions. We are not our thoughts. You are not, you feel your emotions. You're not your emotions. You think your thoughts. You're not your thoughts. But we can become those things if we allow that to dictate us. So emotional awareness becomes about looking internally. And it's not looking at the basic psychology processes, it's understanding who we are and our purpose for that. So when we talk about masculinity, the best way around that is by focusing internally about who we are and what we want to do. So my job isn't to act like I have everything under control, that I'm in charge and I know what I'm doing. The best compliment that my son gave me was that he's watched me grow and improve over the years. So that to me shows me that I've managed to take accountability to my kids about my failures. And that doesn't make me weak. It makes me vulnerable, which actually makes me strong. And they can see that. Then they, in turn, will feel confident enough to own their mistakes openly and honestly with me. And then just because we make mistakes, we often behave in a way that can upset others. But the reality is, we are behaving in a subconscious manner all the time. So when we are not aware of that subconscious manners and we act and we hurt people, we're not bad people. We've made that mistake. But if we feel bad about it, it tells us that we're actually a good soul. So what we do is if we keep making mistakes, then we have to question our character. But once we've been made aware of the fact that it was an unconscious action that needs to be addressed, if it repeats, it now means we know what's happening. So now we have to take accountability because we're perpetuating the same mistake. But we often use excuses like, oh, yeah, I lost my call with that person because I was just so mad. Oh, I was just so afraid of losing my job, so I overreacted. I've been stressed all week, and the final straw was when that person asked me to do one extra thing. That is not awareness. That is not control. That's reactive behavior. And that behavior will bring something else back in you. And then what happens in society is then you are responsible, A, for how I'm feeling in a sense. Like, depending on my mood, you have to accommodate my mood. So if I'm in a bad mood, I need your understanding. I need your patience. It doesn't work that way. If I'm in a mad mood, it's my problem. It's my issue. I need to adjust that. I need to regulate that. And that was the one thing that I really loved about competing is that it taught me to regulate my moods when I wasn't in control. Because you're under eating because you're trying to drop weight, you make weight for a comp, you're working out long hours, you're doing heaps of cardio, you're running a business. There's so much going on that your emotions take over. And how I treated my kids in those environments, I could very easily blame the comp prep, but the reality is the prep was there to teach me how to navigate those instances. So the hardest thing that we all do, we all jump on this fucking wagon about personal development, but we don't take accountability for how we act. Let's look at going to the gym. We all want to go to the gym. We watch the right videos, we read the right books, buy the supplements, go buy our workout apparel, get our headphones on, and we go to the gym. But we do that when we're feeling good and motivated. But if we're feeling pissed off because we had a long day at work, we've had a fight with our partner, whatever the issue is, it affects our mood, and then we just couldn't be bothered. So what's regulating you there? That's not accountability. So when you want to make a change, you have to make a change when you least feel like it. And I believe that's what strong masculinity really is. It's doing something when you least feel like it. It's honoring your responsibility, your purpose that you owe towards your community. And you can't do that if you're not honoring yourself first. We cannot self sacrifice because then all we are offering is something less than of ourselves. We're sacrificing ourselves to give more, then what the fuck are you giving? If you can only give me 80% and you give me your 100 at that time, it's still only 80% of who you are. It might be better than nothing. But then if you're giving me that, what's it doing to you? So I believe when it comes to masculinity, it's about us men holding each other accountable for how we behave, how we treat others, but also holding ourselves accountable for how we treat ourselves. I had to navigate this with my kids. Growing up, I had to try and show my son what a strong man is. I have to empathize with what he's going through, but he has to find his own strength. And we have all our own. I cannot make him strong. And I got challenged a lot of times because I had him in the gym at a very early age. And I constantly got told, he's too early, he's too young. I had him on the scale at a young age. And people said, why is he weighing? He's going to get a complex problem. But the reality, that was their story. I had him on the scale so that he could experience his relationship with the weight and realize that the scale was just a number. It literally just tells you how much you weigh. So now he doesn't care if he's up by one, down by two. It doesn't matter. It's a guide. There is no emotional attachment to it. But yet people were holding me back because they wanted him to feel protected and comforted. So when I'm working with kids, the reality isn't I'm there to keep them safe. I have to teach them to regulate their emotions when they feel unsafe. So if you want to make a change within yourself, it's when you least feel like it and when you challenge to actually sit down and feel through that motion, understand those feelings, release them, acknowledge them, process them. Because then the same thing happens when you're dealing with somebody else on the other side and they communicate with you. You're able just to sit back and look at it from a completely different perspective because you've looked at your own shit. So I'll share a story about my daughter. She came home, she was seeing a guy for about 3, 4 weeks. Now, as a dad, and we're all human, there's always that uncomfortable stage when your daughter starts dating. And with my son, we've done that process, and I've taught him the responsibility that he has towards women, and mostly towards himself and his integrity. That's a whole other podcast when we talk about relationships and cheating in relationships and affairs. We've had that discussion, but the reality is we're hurting ourselves more than anybody else. But my daughter started dating this guy, and really nice guy, treated her well, did all the wonderful things for her, and in a way started to show love bombing. And I could see this happening on the outside. And my daughter was very open and honest with me about how the relationship was developing, but she was very aware of how she held her own concern. She started to notice that there was a very big insecurity in this young boy. And what would happen is that he would react every time she was doing photography work or had to go away on trips for her basketball. He would get very insecure and they would have a massive fight. The follow up would be that they would remake up, but he would treat her well. He would almost love bomb her. The final straw was when they were talking and he was insecure and asked her to share her phone with him. And she felt uneasy, but still, in order to accommodate him because she felt bad for him, she shared her phone, and he mistook a message between friends and completely overreacted. Now, on a side note, if you're thinking about looking through your partner's phone or checking if anybody else is doing something dodgy, you need to address that feeling within yourself because the reality is in your brain, you have a suspicion. And now you want to prove yourself right. So you will go through that and you will find something. Even if it's not, even if it's innocent in your brain, it will be real. And you're just going to be creating more problems for yourself. So trying to prove yourself right isn't going to get you to that point. Trying to understand why you feel that way and communicating that with your partner, that will get you a quicker result. That's just like a little quick side note, but it plays into this when we talk about emotional intelligence. So he saw a message, completely overreacted by swearing at her, completely belittling her. It was unacceptable behavior. Unacceptable behavior. And she was very upset, but at that point in time, she completely shut him down and said, look, I'm sorry, that's it, we're done. I do not accept that sort of behavior. I wouldn't treat you that way. And it really, really hurt her. And it hurt her because someone she really cared about was saying these awful things to her. It's not a stranger, it's someone that she thought she was getting to know well. And I can understand that. And as a dad, my reaction was, ooh. And my son and I, we were quite happy to take care of this in our own manly way. But really, what happened was that he navigated his emotions. He recognized that he was being protective over his sister. He also recognized the independence that his sister has to learn. So his job became in supporting her in her journey. And when I spoke to my daughter, honestly, my reaction, the first was ego, was because, oh, you don't speak to my daughter that way. But then I sat down and realized, you know what? A big part of me was that young man, that young boy. I was also very insecure. And I'm ashamed to say it, but I have to admit that there have been times in my life where I've been very inappropriate with my language and the people I spoke to. And I'm lucky that I've never completely lost my cool that way, but I have been very inappropriate. The reason I have been was because of my own insecurities. And when I feel that pain, I blame the person for that pain, but the pain is mine. And then I treat them in a way that they don't deserve to be treated. And most of all, I then deal with the consequences of hurting the people that I was supposed to care about. And I shared this with my daughter. I know a big part of me just wants to go up to this young boy and give him a big hug and tell him, bro, you need to learn to love yourself first before you love anybody else. Because he's reacting from a place of pain, of fear, of insecurity, of not feeling worthy. And this is how he releases it, uncontrolled. Going back and reflecting on whether someone is right or wrong and understanding your behavior is the way we take accountability and reach a higher level of emotional intelligence. So for any guy out there that wants to be the lighthouse, that wants to set the example and he's working on themselves, realize that the biggest impact you can make in people is by openly and vulnerably addressing your issues. Set the example, because we can all look at projects and tell people what to do, but doing it in the moments we least feel like it, that's where the role modeling needs to happen. Because all I see is when the shit hits the fan and people have had too much, they drop, quit, and move on, and sometimes reactive and create more damage than there was before. It's very rare to see someone at that moment in time take accountability for their emotions and put the work in. Regardless of the fear of the expectations, will someone lose respect for me for this? I'm at the stage in my life where I really couldn't give a shit if people judge me based on my past or even on my opinions. Because I am very confident in myself that I truly want what's best for everybody. And I feel that if we can regulate ourselves and understand ourselves in a deeper level and get to know who we are, that's the first phase in getting to love who we are, not who we think we are. And then not relying on the world to adjust to our moods and our temperament and our predicament, but learning how to adjust our perspectives so that we can thrive in those situations. So that's my take on most of what we just spoke about, guys. Being masculine and looking about what a good man is, by far, I believe it's setting the example of trying to become a better man. And when you hold yourself accountable, you then can hold others accountable. And as men, we can do that with each other. A good man will hold his partner accountable. He will want her to become a better person, not because he wants to be looked after, because he knows that the stronger she is in knowing herself, the more of her he will get, and vice versa. So I hope this really helped give you a different perspective on how I feel. And for me, I can honestly say getting that card from my children, it validated that I am doing the work. It validated to me that my son is willing to take on the same journey and impact others. My daughter is willing to do the same. And if they take their lessons onto other people, then as a community, we start to help each other. And that's my 2 cents on it.